Danielle Jeune is a healer. She has an incredible podcast where she reveals the trauma she went through as a child and how she worked with Al-Anon because alcoholism was a terrible addiction she had to deal with her family and divorce. And what she's done now to turn that around and to try to help others is just very inspirational. She's very vulnerable in the podcast. She talks about things that have happened to her. She's an incredible woman. I find her very confident and disciplined. The first question I ask her is, why is control an illusion? She has that as one of her statements. Another statement is, narcissism is at the root of alcoholism. I wonder if you'd agree with that. And one of the overriding quotes that she does quote that I love by Maya Angelou, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. Great conversation with Danielle Jeune. I think you're going to like it. Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business that lasted over 25 years? Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission, how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family, in their passion, in their careers, and how it helped them. Our podcast vision, growth through learning from others. Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. Oh my goodness. I've got so many questions, Danielle.
Okay.
Why is control an illusion?
Because we're not God. I mean, I'm a very spiritual person, so not to offend anyone, but the only thing that we can control is ourselves. And so anything outside of that is an illusion.
That's very interesting because you have something that I believed in for a long time, but I never quite heard it the way you phrased it. And it's people's perception of me is none of my business.
Correct. And it's taken me a long time. I'm a recovering people pleaser. We all want to be loved and liked, but when you get to your healing, or for me, I realized that it is not my business. The only thing that's my business is who I am, how I treat other people, and my connection to my higher power.
Define your higher power.
Sure. I am in recovery called Al-Anon. I don't know if you saw that, but what that means is I've been affected by the disease of alcoholism within my family. And to be clear, since I am being public, I only have approval from my father that he's been in the program for 39 years. Have other people in my life had issues with alcohol? Yes, but that's their business. So what that means is I've been affected, and the recovery program is a place that I didn't even know existed. I didn't know the root of my problems a lot. I've been in therapy for a long time. I became a nurse practitioner trying to fix myself, but realizing that the behaviors of living with an alcoholic affects you. So my higher power. What does that mean? For me, I believe in God, but it's more of an energy source for me. I believe the creator, and that we are all made of energy. So that has happened through my journey.
We're all made of energy. That's very interesting because you make a distinction in your podcast that
I do.
people believe what they believe, but this is what you believe. It's very, very well put. Another,
Yeah. Well, I don't, sorry.
please, you go, please.
Oh, no. I've learned, I've had a lot of judgments placed on me. So I don't want to do that for other people.
Mm.
But that, I'm just sharing my experience in case someone is searching and not really sure how to put words to it. And if it resonates with them, then they can maybe research it more or be like, oh, that makes more sense to me. Because it's just coming from me, it's not coming from like a book or anything like that.
Right. Narcissism is at the root of
Yes.
alcoholism.
That's my personal belief. Yes. Meaning that I've gotten a lot of flack in some areas. It's, it means either you have a disease of alcoholism or you've been affected by someone else's alcoholism. That's
Mm.
what people aren't hearing me. They're like, I'm not an alcoholic. I go, okay, but was there an addict? And it's not just alcoholic. It's kind of a play on words, isms, narcissism, alcoholism, but it's an addiction, So maybe you've been affected by someone else that had an addiction. And because it's a self-centered condition, to be honest.
Alcoholism is.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Is any addiction self-centered?
I think most addictions are self centered when you're in the addictive phase, yes. Which is why in my podcast, I talk about I would love to change the term to victim entitlement behavior. That is my goal. That is my
Mm.
sole purpose, is to try to get people to see, because it's almost like everybody's talking about narcissism. Everybody's become a narcissist, and there's just no way that we're all narcissists. I mean, is everything a spectrum? Sure, like what level are you on? But it's truly kind of honing in on like we've all been victims, but it's whether you feel entitled now to do whatever you want. And that's where I want people to kind of wake up to.
Hmm. And you also consider yourself empathic,
I'm sorry, we broke up a little bit.
correct?
Sorry?
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. You consider yourself empathic.
Yes, I do. I've had to accept that about myself. I'm a traditionally trained Western nurse practitioner, but I
Mm.
can no longer negate things I feel from my patients, things that people just don't understand how I know, and I can just feel it. So I'm no longer running from myself.
I've had the good fortune to speak to a couple of empaths through this, podcast journey, and the statement they made is that in the beginning, a narcissist and an empath make good relationship only for a short while.
Feel
Do you
it's
agree?
true. I've heard that, but I kind of like to push. I like to push boundaries and kind of expand people's minds. That I think you can be a narcissist and an empath in the same person. It's
Whoa.
just the dynamic that you've created. A lot of narcissists are empathic. They just can't handle the emotions, so they swing to the under pendulum, either through drugs, alcohol, or control. So I don't think it's a dichotomy of like if you're a narcissist, there's no way you're an empath. I think you
Hmm.
can be both.
That's
Mhm.
fascinating. I didn't consider that.
Well, it's just because I've healed and worked with a lot of addicts that have narcissistic tendencies, but they're also really empathic. And that's why they get in so much pain is they feel everyone's feelings, but they don't know how to handle it.
Hmm.
So where the empath traditionally wants to fix things, right? You want to like save someone and you feel these things. Where when I use the term empath, I'm not saying that. I just say I can feel and sympathize. But I feel a lot of people use empath, but really it's a codependency.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I was unfamiliar with this term and just state of being only until a couple of weeks ago. So it fascinates me um, because I think it's a spectrum as well. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. I don't think anything is black and white. I think we all want to be able to put things in perspective so we can understand what happened to us, like if you were in an unhealthy relationship, it's a lot easier to be like, oh, okay, that person was a narcissist, I'm an empath. I'm hoping I'm coming off kindly in my podcast, but I want to wake people up to being in their power of what was your role in the situation? What are the things because there's a lot of things I accepted in the past that I no longer do. And that's my hope to bring to people's attention as well. Yes, we can blame other people, but we have an active role in our own lives as well.
Yes, your podcasts are very vulnerable and very open and
Yes.
very honest. And as the listener, I feel you're doing this to eventually help others where you've been
Yes.
and where you are now. And there's certain points where you get very vulnerable and you have to pause and collect and continue. And it's very powerful, Danielle.
Thank you. I think that means a lot to me. I beat myself up because I can't always, because I do sing at the end. And so I have production and I have to get a musician. So it takes me a lot while the podcast part is not highly produced, but my song. So I put a lot of love into each one. So while I feel sometimes a little inadequate because I don't have a lot, but I'll have another one coming out in another couple weeks. But yeah, I'm trying to, it's like I talk about it. I like to talk about the underbelly of alcoholism and my emotions. And my dream is to wake up more people to how it affected them. And maybe Al Anon will help them. That's kind of my ultimate hope.
Yeah, I get that sense. There's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you.
Yes, exactly.
Miss
You
Maya
really
Angelou.
listened. I'm really honored. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So, I hope others do. Perhaps this will be the avenue to do so because I think um, people can really be helped, and the hardest part is really asking for help and knowing that you need the help. Is that correct?
Yes, of course. But because there's shame involved, we're so taught by society that we have to be strong and that we have to be have a mask essentially, like everything is fine. So I'm hoping that I can open the door, you know. I got the biggest compliment, and I don't know if it's even true, but they're like, I think you're more vulnerable than Brene Brown. I'm like, no way. But, like, I just want to open that. I want to be my, audience is talking because we don't talk about a lot of narcotics is very obvious. I think if you see people snorting pills, like it's a lot more obvious, where alcoholism, it's very accepted by society, and a lot of people are suffering quietly in their homes.
It is terrible. So how did it affect you? I don't want you to
Sure.
how did it affect you in as a child and as an adult?
So yes, I can speak for myself. So my need for perfectionism, I never felt good enough. When you're raised in that disease, a lot of things are projected onto you because the other person can't take responsibility, right? So everything is blamed on you. And so a lot of things I thought were always my fault. So I always wanted to, like I said, I'm an old people pleaser. I always like, okay, I'll fix it. I'll make you happy. You always, that is like the big key components I would tell someone. If you're feeling like everything's your fault all the time, or you feel like you have to please everybody, or your value, I've had to work really hard on my own inner value that's not contingent upon someone else. And definitely perfectionism, like having to be the best of the best of the best. And I had a lot of criticism. How else has it affected me? But then the opposite can happen. Like I can be really feisty because of it, like I can really stick up for myself that maybe some other women can't. Like there's a line for me where I'm really kind. But if you really cross it, you're like, oh, you don't want to upset Danielle. So I've had to work healing that as well, because any anger within me, it's not peaceful either. All it does is hurt me.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Well put. You mentioned once as a child, your parents took you to the piano lessons, and the instructor got upset with you. You were floating away, and is this where? But does that kind of contradict perfectionism, or you just weren't interested in that particular?
So it kind of swings, right? So that's great that you brought up. So the term is called magical thinking when you suffered a lot of trauma. So what I was happening there, I was just in my head, like magical thinking, like just essentially disassociating to try to, it's a coping mechanism from trauma. So essentially, yeah, I was in the clouds.
That's
I've
right.
been in the clouds a lot of times in my life, even as an adult, even now, if my business isn't on track, I can see myself trying to create magical thinking. But now I'm in this, I really want to manifest and move forward. So I don't think it's always magical thinking, but it's just to help teach people, like, are you doing it as a coping mechanism? Like, is it hindering you or helping you? But as a child, it was hindering me, because I wasn't present in my life. I was out there.
Mm.
Does that make
Yeah, you
sense?
mentioned, yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
have some more context. I'm trying to bring it around for the listener as well. So you talk about
Okay.
when you're younger, your parents split, and then there was the custody thing, and you wanted to stay with your
Mhm.
father, and there was maybe a move to Italy, and there was uh, step parents involved,
Yeah.
and that kind of aided to all this kind of perfectionism and trying to control things that you weren't able to.
Mhm.
Correct?
100%. Yes.
It's very
Hmm. Well,
interesting how
because,
that.
sorry.
Please, please.
Oh, no, no. I was going to say, I learned that if I took on the blame, then I can control it too. That
Mm.
was another big wake up call for me, that was a way of me trying to fix the situation. And I think a lot of us that have suffered from this illness believe that, yeah, if we take on the blame, then we can fix it and control it, where you can't. Like, this is not your fault. You didn't cause it, and you can't cure it. Like, only the person can get in recovery.
I was just saying how, yeah, it was unfair how a step parent would put the burden on you like that and cause a lot of trauma about your sister feeling the same trauma you did if you
I
do
know.
certain things. Horrible, horrible, Danielle.
It is, but it's the disease, unfortunately.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So I've
Yeah,
had to
that's
learn a
more.
lot
Yeah.
of compassion. I've had to do a lot of forgiveness meditations, forgiveness things, because I can't control what happened to me. I can only control how I heal and help others through the process. I guess I really got to the point where it's like, okay, what can I do to evolve this pain and help others see it as well, that they can get through it?
Yeah, they absolutely can. Let's talk
Yeah,
about that. So,
sure.
how do you help others now? I mean,
Okay.
I've watched videos with the sound and
Hmm.
how it heals, and tell us about binaural beats. Is that how it's
Yeah.
pronounced?
Hmm. It's beautiful how you,
Please.
yeah. Okay. So I have two companies. I am a single mom. So, and I want to be an entrepreneur. So, you have to have multiple lines of income, because I have an income
Yes.
number I want to achieve. So I have a online, like, virtual telemedicine practice as a nurse practitioner. So if you have any listeners in Florida, I can take care of them in Florida.
Mm.
But then I also have my Finding Your Inner Phoenix, which is the podcast. I also, with that, I am teaching people how I healed myself through sound, through meditation. So really, I couldn't do guided meditation because of my anxiety at the time. I would always have these racing thoughts, or I'd always feel like I was failing because of my perfectionism. So I found this other form of meditation that uses binaural beats, as you described. So to teach the listeners, like, it is a frequency that's put in one ear, and then another frequency is put in another. And actually, in my YouTube video, I do have it added. And but you must wear headphones. And what it's doing is it changes your brain waves to a more calmer state, so that
Hmm.
you can, it's pretty much changing the neuroplasticity in your brain. So it's like, I want to teach people that you can rewire your brain. I used to be a lot more anxious person, and I have come to a really calm, centered. I mean, I still have emotions, of course, but there's this tranquility that I have that I never had before. So that's what my mission. And then if you want to know, my big, big missions is to be a,
Please.
a motivational speaker about this. I want to get this out there more, and it to really be a big integral part of those in recovery. So it's not just people been affected by alcoholism, but it's like a way to rewire an addict's brain to be more calm, so they don't run to the drugs or alcohol.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
Oh,
those are
you
big
said a
dreams.
lot there.
But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you said a lot there. So let's go back to um so overall overwhelming theme when I talk to people. is meditation. Almost everybody meditates. So when you meditate, it's purely assisted and it's with these beats.
I mean, I've gotten stronger. I can do it on my own. Yes. But
I
this is
see.
just how I teach people to, because there's no way, I don't think it's fair to have this expectation for people to be able to sit, for me at least, those with trauma, to sit for 15 minutes and be quiet and expect to find this like bliss. Like, I just don't think that that's realistic. And I think it hurts people more than helping
Hmm.
them. So that's why I think guided meditation is better. But why I kind of want to steer people in, I guess, my direction is just that it will even, there's, you can do nothing and it's still going to help you because of the binaural beats in it, sound healing. It, not just the bowls, you have to do both, but it's going to help calm you down. If you can go on YouTube and you can even listen to it all night long, it will
Hmm.
subconsciously help calm your brain waves. So when you wake up in the morning, you can feel clearer, because half the time you're just in a fight or flight adrenergic response. You can't process true things coming to you because you're just fighting the stress levels in your body. So that's one.
That's very interesting. And even if someone doesn't feel that they're stressed, their body can be stressed.
Oh, for sure. Yes. I mean, I am a semi truck person. I like, meaning that I can work like a workaholic and think I'm fine. But, when it's time for a vacation or if I get sick, then all of a sudden it will hit me because, everyone's body is made different. So I don't think everybody is aware of how stressed they are until they hit a wall.
Yeah, I've certainly seen that before. And where does health and kind of fitness fall into your treatment?
Sure. So I'm actually starting that myself. It's like I had to heal my emotions, I say my spirit, but now I'm actually getting into my physical body. I'm eating better, I'm working out, because it is all interconnected. But I've noticed for myself that I didn't feel safe in my body because of, I had sexual trauma as a little girl, I've had emotional. So it's easier to run away from that. When you don't feel safe in your body, it's easier to run, like in the clouds. It's easier to not be there. But if your physical body is not healthy, then all of it's not. I've learned you can only go so far, and now I have to get back into my body, if that makes sense. So that's where I see, yes, nutrition, exercise is just as integral as meditation. That's just not been my forte.
I
There's,
see.
yeah, other people
And
have
how
that as their forte.
Yeah, we see in the country, unfortunately, obesity levels are, 75%. I heard as high as that, and you can't. Some of the trauma that people are feeling,
Mhm.
is eating just another
Yes.
distraction or addiction.
Yes. There is actually OA Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, that I think a lot of
Mm.
people would benefit from. If they knew it existed, it's free. It's not like all these, I hear a lot of people saying therapy is expensive, but it is something that there's a group that, you'd have a sponsor. So I think a lot of people with eating issues would really benefit from going to Overeaters Anonymous. And it's anonymous, but it all does, I believe, triggers from some sort of trauma, some sort of not feeling valued in themselves. Of course, there's genetics. There are people that they eat really well and they're still overweight, and that is who they are. But a lot of the time, it is unfortunately behaviors.
Yeah, and alcoholism, you just have to kind of avoid the bars and get alcohol out of the house. But with eating, everybody's got to eat. So it's a very, very tough addiction.
Oh, yeah, I think
Um,
it's the hardest one, to be honest.
right.
I do. Because I've kind of just interested in it. So I've researched it, and to understand when you're in sobriety and Overeaters Anonymous, it looks a lot different. You're right. It's not
Mm.
drinking. But even for alcoholics, though, I call them dry drunks. Like, they may not be drinking, but are they emotionally sober? There's a
Hmm.
difference.
Explain that, please.
Sure. So I've suffered from that too. Someone that didn't drink for 13 years, but emotionally, the rage, the projection, the gaslighting, the blaming, the criticism, that's still all alcoholism. They just don't put the alcohol in their mouth. Does that make sense? So emotional sobriety is when you have healed. Why did you drink in the first place? Because drinking is the last symptom. It's not the first thing that
Mm.
happens. Does that, yeah. So there's a difference between emotional sobriety and just sobriety.
It's so interesting. I have, a friend who's clean now, but yeah, when you said gaslighting, it really, rang for me because that they continue to do that,
Yeah.
and even though they're not using,
Mhm.
you could still see that that's there, and you would think that would kind of correct itself, but in a
No.
lot of cases, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So, when you help people,
Mhm.
how does it begin? So let's say they reach out to you. How does the process begin with you? How do you work with them?
So I've been a little nervous to because I'm getting kind of pushed to be a coach, but I've been kind of
Mm,
hesitant. I go back and forth because I feel like I'm a healthcare provider. But so right now I just take care of them through their insurance. Or if they want to be in my Patreon, which is, when you have a podcast, I do have a Facebook group and I can do sound
saw
healing.
that.
But I I don't know. I need to kind of, I know this sounds, I need to pray a bit a little more about it because I do feel like
Mm,
I'm getting a lot of people that want to see me one on one. I just, I don't have my coaching certificate. Do I want to go back to school for that? So it's more focusing on, I want to heal people as a provider. So I guess right now, if anybody wanted to see me, like if they're in Florida, yeah, I could see them no problem, telemedicine wise, or if they wanted to be on my Patreon, it doesn't matter. That one I do more the sound healing. And it's just like, inspirational quotes, things like that in my private Facebook group. And then I do like 15 minutes where you can pick my brain.
hmm. Very interesting because you're a nurse practitioner. You're a
Yeah,
gator. You
I
went and
am.
you got your. You are,
Yeah.
yes. I have a lot of great friends who are gators, and other than their Seminoles, and I'm not taking any sides in our conversation. It's just too political. I can't do it right now.
No,
But so you are a medical professional.
I am. I am, but I kind of outside the box because I also talk about energy and meditation. So um, I kind of were
Hmm.
nervous for a long time, but that's why I call it finding your inner phoenix because I can no longer not be myself. But the energy, all that, it's gonna come out. I promise you. Like you can watch this 5, 10 years from now and be like, Danielle said it early on. Like the chakras. I call them energy cores because people get all freaked out when you say chakras. Um, but they
That's
will.
true.
It's shown. I'm telling you, like it's all gonna come evidence. It's called bioenergetic medicine. It's being studied now, and the more and more it will be shown. But I can only teach, and with insurance, that's why I have the two separate companies because you have to follow legally. So I don't talk about the energy cores with people while I'm billing their insurance. I can talk about mindfulness, I can talk about meditation, but I'm not going to teach them the sound healing and things like that. That I do in my private Facebook group and things like that.
Are you a believer in functional medicine?
Yeah, I am. I just think that there's a line. Um, how educated is the person? And if you're still really ill and it's not getting better, then do you need to go see traditional provider? I guess
Hmm.
that's where like I'm not the type of person. Do I think my sound healing bowls is going to cure your UTI? No. You need antibiotics. Like I am very reasonable. But when it comes to emotions, yes. Do I think I can really help people with their emotions, like mental health things? 100%.
The overriding theme of generally my discussion. So I've I was very heavy at one point, and people ask me how'd you lose the weight, and I said just discipline. I just focused. My daughter was born, and the doctor said, "Hey, Joe, you're pre-diabetic. If you don't straighten up, you're not going to see your daughter, grow." So I just changed everything. I worked out, I ate less, etc. I lost a lot of weight, and people ask for kind of a magic bullet, and I say just discipline. So how does discipline play when someone wants to see you and wants to be healed and wants to be helped?
That's a hard thing because I've even struggled with discipline. I'm either an overachiever to where like I kill myself, or I slack off because I've been stressed out. So I can understand why people have a hard time that have suffered from trauma to have this internal discipline, because again, it all comes back to valuing yourself. Like when you value yourself, you put yourself first. You're like, okay, I need to wake up in the morning. I need to do this for myself. But for those, because I sympathize, when you've put other people in front of you, you don't have the discipline at times. But I would say to seeing me, I hope I would spark an interest that I could help them feel connected to, maybe feeling that I could hear them on a different level than, because I've always had patients tell me, like, I can talk to you more than I talk to my own therapist. I just am able to connect with people where they feel safe. Because most of the time when you go to a healthcare provider, you don't tell the truth because you're worried about being judged. I mean, let's be real, and that's how are we as providers really going to help you if you don't tell me the whole truth? Right. Where my patients will say, I can tell you everything. And I'm like, great. And then I can help you, but if there's a barrier where you don't feel safe, how are you going to get healed?
In one of your podcasts, you mentioned seeing a therapist, and the male therapist said you were aggressive, and the female said you were bold or something less assertive. Yes. And can you speak on that, about the obvious clear distinction there?
Oh, well, I think it's a man thing. I mean, it's funny. I did an interview yesterday. I've been really, I don't know, I've been really excited. People are kind of listening to my podcast now. So I had another interview yesterday, and they said, you're just really intimidating. And I'm like, I don't mean to come off as intimidating, but I am strong. I do have a strong moral compass, So I think if the person may not feel secure, they see me as aggressive when I can be really clear. And that male therapist was brought into my life for those reasons. But my female therapist is like, no, you're just assertive. If you were a man, they wouldn't consider you aggressive. It's just our society standards, to be honest.
As a father of daughters, I always dislike hearing those kinds of things, you can imagine. By the way, I don't find you intimidating. I find you disciplined and very, very structured and confident. No border on arrogance. I find you very interesting and confident, would be the best way to describe you. So you're really kind of putting yourself out there, and to try to help in a benevolent fashion. But you must have some fears to exposing yourself this way.
Oh yeah, I do. My next podcast, when I make it, is going to be about finding love and having heartbreak again. So I'm scared, but I don't know. There's just this internal desire to do it. I feel safe. It is actually about, I found Jesus. I didn't know I'd find Jesus, but because I was never raised Christian. It's actually raised more by Jewish people, but I don't think I've become a Christian per se. I just feel like he's part of my team now, that I pray to. But I just feel supported in this way. I keep feeling when I listen and meditate, just keep being yourself. And I don't know, but thank you for honoring that it is scary, because I do everybody wants some feedback, and it's nice to hear from those being like, oh, I honor that. So thank you for telling, because it is hard sometimes. I am afraid, should I release that? But I just have to keep doing it, right? But that's the whole point of what I feel like podcast is. Truly, I want to be authentic. I want people to trust me. And, do I worry because I have dreams of wanting to being successful, and then people are going to see me talk about heartbreak, but it's still part of life. I'm human,
There's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. You like that one?
I do, but it keeps bringing itself out in our conversation. I had the good fortune of speaking to someone yesterday. This woman, her husband of 25 years was diagnosed with cancer, and he died after 11 months. And, the trauma that she went through after that, and close to 2 years later, she decided that she needed to find love again. She deserved it. And so as a 50-year-old woman, she had to, she went on Bumble and she kind of documents her process, and she was happy ending, was able to find it. But she said that it was more difficult dealing with that process of finding new love than dealing with the death of her husband. The
Yeah.
death of her husband was over 11 months, and it was slow and it was inevitable, it was going to happen. Whereas this was, she's really putting herself out there. And it's,
Mhm.
everybody deserves that, Danielle.
Yeah.
Love.
I know. And I thought I found it again, and I don't know what's going to happen with this person, but yeah, so that's why it felt kind of another soul crushing, because I do deserve, I think we all deserve to be loved for sure.
Yes, certainly. And you chronicle that as well, as you were with him, with a particular person, then went back, and then
Yeah.
child, and then went back again, and how difficult that is. And again, putting yourself out there to help others. I mean, I
Yes.
think there's no greater gift.
Well, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of it was like learning my value, learning like with true love or not true love, and was it, I fought for my family, what was the best thing, but I was also honest that, like, that's why I sang the Janis Joplin song, like, my heart was broken so many times, like, how many times are you going to allow your heart to break as well, like, I'm learning that true love shouldn't hurt, and that's just taking me time.
Take a little piece of my heart.
Yes, I
Yeah,
did.
absolutely. So Danielle Jeune,
Jeune.
is that Jeune?
French. Mhm.
Yeah, French. It's interesting. I didn't know there was many French in Florida.
Well, so my mom is 100% Canadian, so I'm half
Ah,
and half. So it's my mom's side. My mom's side, Canadian, the
that's
house.
right. Yes.
So yes,
Yeah,
my
my mother's from Nova Scotia,
Oh,
but
okay. Yeah, from
yeah,
British Columbia. Like my grandmother,
I
they
can
live
see.
in Victoria, BC, and my mom was
Yeah.
raised. Was it Victoria or Tarn? Anyway, somewhere over there. So yeah, my great grandmother is 100% French.
Hmm. Yeah, Robichaud. It's that was their name, and they're very, very French. And then there was a whole Italian. You were going to go. My father's Italian as well, but you were going to go to Italy
Not
for,
me.
that
My
didn't happen.
stepdad, he was going to get deported there with
Ah,
the Air Force at the time.
that's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
So
That's
my
right.
mom wanted to take me with her, but my dad, he wanted to be involved in my life. So there was always, in the 80s, it was a more assumed that the mom got the kids, it's a lot
That's right.
different now. So my mom was a little surprised. And that's also why when she left to Ohio, she thought she would get me again, but that didn't happen. So it's not like my mom didn't fight for me, but um, it just is the circumstances.
Certainly. So,
Mhm.
how can we get in touch with you? What can we
Sure.
do? Tell us. You've got the necklaces, the bowls. Please
Yeah,
tell me
sure.
about them.
Okay. So yes, I have an artist side to me. So the bowls, they are a symbol, and I'm actually turning it into a kit. So because people love the bowls, but they actually wanted to do it themselves. So what does that mean?
Hmm.
They're kintsugi style. So it's a Japanese style that where if a piece of pottery breaks, you re-glue it with like a gold pigment. And why I love it is because I feel like I shattered, and then now I've created a new version of myself. So I believe you're more beautiful
Hmm.
after you heal. And so I have ones that I make, but I'm changing it. It'll probably be out like next week. I need to make another YouTube video about it. But essentially I give everything, like I give you the bowl, the ceramic, the thing I make, and the woman will pick whether they want it to be a self-love. They want to manifest more love in their life, or they want to manifest more money. And so, and then there's like a little necklace with the jewel compared, because I'm into crystals. So the citrine is for money, and then red jasper is for love. And so it's just a symbolic thing that you hold and pray to bring in more love and or money into your life. Because I like pretty things. And then my necklaces, they're just it's symbolic for me as well, because they are the universe has your back. So it's more for women that like to show their back. So there's a really pretty
Hmm.
jewel in the back. And then in the front, it's either self-love, abundance, or the chakras. It's all the colors. So it's elegant. It's pretty.
my style. So it's like, yeah, like I think some people can't figure me out because I have all these different things, but I don't want to limit myself, you know?
Why would you? And your website?
Is www.findingyourinnerphoenix.com.
And we didn't really talk about finding your inner phoenix. So Phoenix
Yeah.
rises back up from the ashes.
Yes.
Please explain that a bit.
Sure. So it's the mythological myth that, you know, the bird, that it just burns into ashes and then it regenerates. And I feel like even this past year, even these past months, I'm still doing that. I'm still re-rise. Like I feel like, okay, another obstacle has happened and I've had to push through, and another obstacle has happened. And so it's like, I just want to encourage people that, healing is hard. You have to evolve, but if you fall, you get back up even better. And so that's kind of that's my theme.
And it's also the name of the podcast.
Yes, it's the name of the podcast, and that's the website. I actually have a little widget that I talk to you, and it kind of helps you go through the website.
Oh, yeah.
And even there, you can like click on it, and if you want, because I have a binaural beat meditation too that I can send, because they just need to put their name and their email, and then I can send them. I have a little ebook and like a meditation I created myself with the binaural beats, the sound bowls. And I like these cool African drums. Like I kind of have some soul in me. I don't like
cool. That was cool.
yeah. I don't like I'm not so new like I don't like, I joke. I'm not a hippie, but I don't know, I like some cool stuff in it.
Nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
Let your flag fly.
Okay. My freak flag fry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today. And I'm always amazed with people like yourself, because you go through trauma and you deal with it, and maybe you're still dealing with it. Certainly you are, but then you turn it around and you help others. It's just amazing to me that people like yourself exist. And I thank you for it.
Thank you very much. I'm really grateful.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Joe.
Everybody, please go visit the site and listen and get those bowls. Thank you so much, Danielle.
Yes, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much, Joe.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Be well. Bye now. Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypinz.com. There you find lots of resources, and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.